Okay, let's start learning, guys. Let's start learning. The Maimer Basi Legani, Beis Samach Dalid, Yud Shvat, Tavshin Yudalef. This is the first Maimer the Rebbe said, the Basi Legani. Subsequently, every year, he taught a Maimer. He said a Maimer on this verse. And let's see what the Rebbe says now, okay?
Is this, we're learning the previous Rebbe or the... No, this is the Rebbe's Maimer. This is the Rebbe's one.
The Rebbe's Maimer, because I said that it's 70 years now, will be 70 years of the Friedrich Rebbe's Yahrzeit and the Rebbe's leadership. So I want to look at the Maimer to see how he alludes to the mission statement. We spoke about that yesterday, so let's get to the text and continue. Beis Hamagdalid, Yud Shvat, Tavshin Yudalef. This is the help of Hashem, Yud Shvat, 1951, 5/7/11. My father-in-law, the stately Rebbe, writes, in his Maimer, that he gave to study for the day of his Histalkus, which means departure and from this world. Yud Shvat, Hey Tovshin Yud. So the Rebbe is now taking a phrase, a sentence, a posik in Shir Hashirim that his father-in-law expounded upon, and he says, I'm going to expound on what my father-in-law began expounding. Basi, legani, achaysi kala. Hashem says, I've come to my garden, my sister, my bride. He said, right there in the Medrash, it says, legan, enksiv kan el legani. It doesn't say, legan, I came to a garden, but I came to my garden. And the Medrash teaches, the Medrash defines the word legani as lignuni. What does lignuni mean? My place of delight. I came to a place which I had much pleasure from. And I came back to that place. Over there, in that place, I really had a good time. It's like you say, oh, I'm going back to, let's say you had a great childhood and you lived somewhere, and now so many years later, I want to go back and visit and relive my great time that I had there. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says the same thing. Why? The Iker Shechina, because the primary aspect, the primary mode of what we call divine presence, the Shechina, guess where it was? It wasn't with the angels, it wasn't with the stars, it wasn't in the heavens. B'tachtonim hoisa. It was very much below, tachtonim, the lowest. Ad kan l'shoinei. Until here is the quote, ends the quote of the Midrash. Now comes the question, what is this particular language of the Midrash? Iker Shechina, the primary Shechina. In other words, if it would have said Shmuel, the Shechina, the sentence would make sense. Why does it say Iker? So now the Maimer is going to analyze this nekuda, this point of Iker Shechina. So in order to understand Iker Shechina, first you have to understand what Shechina is in general. So he says, in regard to the meaning of Shechina, good to see you, Reb Shalom. The Alter Rebbe explains, Shenikra Shechina, why is Hashem's an emanation of the world, and Hashem's presence called Shechina? I mean, does the word Shechina have a meaning? He says yes. Al Shem Shesheichenes umislabeshes. The word Shechina is associated with the idea of shochenes. It rests. But in what manner does it rest and dwell? Umislabeshes. It invests itself. It's that part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that actually invests itself in the world. And he quotes the Ubeloshin from the term brought in the Torah in Parshas Truma, I believe. V'shochanti, I will rest b'toicham amongst them, amongst the Yidden. When you build me the tabernacle, the Mishkan, Hashem says, V'shochanti, and I will rest b'toicham in them. And he says, Shehu Reishis is Galus himself. This is the first of several revelations how God progresses to come into the world, to be in the world. So the first of the first rung on the ladder, in a sense, of God, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu coming from above to below, is what we call Shechina. Shechina in general, not Iker Shechina, Shechina. Hine memashe koisav shereishis eis galus. Says, now the Rebbe is commenting on the comment of his father-in-law, from the fact that it's written in my father-in-law's Maimer, that the Reishis eis galus, that the first revelation of godliness of Ein Sof, Nikre b'shem Shechina is called Shechina. Moving, we understand from this, moving is she'inyin Shechina, the idea of Shechina, hu l'mayla matzilas gamkein. So the Rebbe is going to get now a little technical here with levels, and he says, we understand that this is yet above what we call Atzilut, the world of emanation. And he says more so, it's even before and greater, Gamba B'chinas Ha'oyer Shafnei Tzimtzum. Even the emanation of Hashem as it precedes contraction, Tzimtzum, this emanation of Shechina is even greater. Why? We generally know that the first emanation of godliness is in the infinite light of Hashem as it precedes contraction of the light. As the Mittler Rebbe writes. So you've already seen him quote the Alter Rebbe a few lines ago. Now he quotes the second Chabad Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, and he's going to quote, like I told you yesterday, all the 5 Rabbeim 3 times in the 3 sections of the Maimer. So here he quotes the Mittler Rebbe, the second Rebbe, Reb Dov Ber of Lubavitch, Reb Dov Ber Shnei Yoedi, that was his name, Ki ha'oris ha'kav ha'chut l'gabi atzmi u'seidin sof nikr b'shem Shechina, that when we talk about an emanation of the line and the thread, meaning that amount of godliness to the world in comparison to Lagabe Atzmi Yosein, to the very core essence of the infinite light, Nikre B'Shem Shechina, we call that emanation of the line and the thread, we call that only Shechina. Why? Ki inyan Shechina hu b'chol mokem lefi inyanei. This Hillel is a very important definition. When we speak about the level of Hashem as Hashem is known through Shechina, it represents an emanation, a revelation of godliness that is catered to where it's coming, where it's going to. Hu b'chol makom lefi inyanei. It is to every place based on its content. Therefore,
What was the question?
Yes.
We just saw a minute ago that Alter Rebbe said that Shechina was Lefnei Tzimtzum. Now the Mittler Rebbe is saying it's the Kav B'chut, which is after Tzimtzum. So it's, what is it? Maybe, like I said, it's every level.
That's what he's saying. That's what he's trying to prove. That Shechina is it's no contradiction. The Alter Rebbe is speaking about it in one level, and the Mittler Rebbe is speaking about another level. That's exactly his point. Hu b'chol mokim lefi inyani. Legabi Atzilis, and he continues, he explains, Legabi Atzilis, hini malchus nikre b'shem Shechina. If you compare the energy, the Or, in comparison to Atzilus, Malchus is called Shem Shechina. Why? Because Malchus is the kingship and royalty, which is the 10th Shvirah, the 10th emanation, Boaz. It is the energy that invests itself. Let's go on. I really want to get to, the Gam Bezeh, Masha Malchus, Datzilis Nikre B'Shechina, and he goes even further. And now he quotes the third Rebbe. The Gam Bezeh, Masha Malchus, Datzilis Nikre B'Shechina, and even this, that we say Malchus of Atzilus is called Shechina, Mevayer Kveit Kush Admur Tzemach Tzedek, the holy Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe, Reb Nachum Mendel of Lubavitch, writes, "Shazel davke k'moshenasis pidas atik lehil mabriya." That is only when this energy becomes the kind of crown for the next world, which is the world of creation, Bria. Aval b'yoyse batzilis. But when this same energy is yet in Atzilus, he miyuchedes imohem, it is united with Atzilus, im asfiras d'Atzilus, with the sfiros of Atzilus, v'leishayech loshen shchina. And you cannot call it Shechina, because Shechina is the way it already has to do with the place it comes to, and the world it comes to, and it takes into consideration everything that it's coming to inspire and enliven. And while it's yet in its source, it's not Shechina, it's not resting there. So he's going along with what he said earlier, which I really point out again, that Shechina is b'chol makom lefi inyanei. That's a very important definition to understand the continuum of ideas over here. Let's continue. B'chol makom ein zeh soisel l'mashakos of leil shakav nikim b'shem Shechina. I mean, this is all part of your question, Shmuel. It's not a contradiction between what the Tzemach Tzedek says and to say the Kav is called Shechina. Ki Shechina shenemah b'drashas Hazal hainu b'malchus Atzilus. He says generally when we have the idea of Shechina as it's applied in Chazal, that is Malchus Atzilus. V'af gam zois, and even this rak kishenasis pinas atik lebriya davke. Specifically, when it becomes a atik, a crown kind of for the next level. These are very technical, difficult things, and it's going to take a long time to explain. I'm just going to go on. I want to get to kind of things that are more understandable for us. Okay. Avil b'sharsha, but in its source, in a commercial legabe itself, if you look at it in comparison to its source, not to where it gets to, hinigam akav nikra b'shem Shechina. You guys is now on page 193. What page do you have in your
193. 193.
Good. Okay, we're on the same page. 193. Okay. Why is the kav? Why kav means a line, a measurement. Why is the amount of godliness as it's expressed in a measurement of godliness called Shechina in comparison to the Ein Sof, to the infinite light of Hashem? Kosaf, he goes now to the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe, Kosaf Kveit Kusabur Marash. Writes the Rebbe Marash Reb Shmuel of Lubavitch, Lefi, Shehakav, Kavodas Hamshechosoi, Bishvil Sheyislabish Ba'olam is V'neshamas Yisrael. What is the intent of the Kav? The Kav, the godly intent in the measured amount of godliness that is given through the line, the Kav, it is to invest itself in the worlds that are created and in the Jewish souls, the Shabbos Yisrael. Even at the very top of the line, a line has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So he says, even the top of the line, the head of the line, which seemingly is really more interested in what's above it than what's below it, he says, but since it's part of the line, Nikra b'shem Shechina, all of it, top, bottom, top, middle, and bottom are all called Shechina. And because they're all associated with a measured amount. So even though you pick your head up and you look upward, nevertheless your feet are on the ground, therefore your body's on the ground and your head's on the ground too. Although from time to time you can pick your head up and look upward. Well, now he says, but there's even a higher level of Shechina that's less invested, in its first root source above the Tzimtzum. So he goes now to the fifth Rebbe of Lubavitch, so the Rebbe, he was called Rebbe the Shusayden. During the lifetime of the previous Rebbe, during the lifetime of the fifth Rebbe, they called Reb Sholem Ber of Lubavitch the Rebbe, and during the lifetime of his son, the previous Rebbe Yosef Yitzchak, they referred to his father, Rebbe Nishmasoi Eden, the Rebbe whose soul is in Gan Eden. So here he refers to the fifth Rebbe, Admur Nishmas Eden. So the fifth Rebbe whose soul is in Eden, he writes and explains that this energy of Hashem that exists before the contraction, Nikra b'Shem Shechina. It's also called Shechina. Why? Just hear what he says and let's go on. Before the energy of God, before contraction, has three levels, three aspects. One, Etzem Ha'or, the essential light, the essential energy. Two, Hispashtus Ha'or, the extension of that light. And he says, Uvispashtus Ha'or, and within the extension, there are Beis Madreges, two levels of Gilui Ha'or. Kameshu La'atzmai. There is the extension of the light as it is for himself. If this is the source, what we call Soiviv Kol Almim, the energy that encompasses the world, which we've discussed in the last mimer. And then there is Gilui La'atzmai, there is a revelation of the light itself within yourself, but is already, you're thinking about Hashayach Lo'ilamais, it's relevant to the worlds. And this is a source of what we call of the Oir HaMamala. In other words, what we're learning, Hillel, here is that both Oir HaSoviv and Oir HaMamala begin within yourself. But being that each one has a different mechuvan, a different intent, that's why we call it two levels in the Gilui Oir, two levels within the extension itself. And this revelation, Nikra b'Shem Shechina, the Rebbe Rashab says, this is what we mean by Shechina. It's a rhetorical question on himself. How can I say it's called Shechina if it's pre-contraction, and therefore it's impossible for it to be a source for the worlds because it's too awesome, too overwhelming. That's why there had to be a contraction on the light. But Tzimtzum Arishin, and not just any contraction, but what we call the first contraction, Shehu B'Bchinas Siluk Davka, which is total removal. It's like a teacher who wants to succeed in teaching, he must first remove in his mind the knowledge the way he knows it with all its depth and breadth, in order to succeed, to communicate the idea in a way that the student can handle it. If the teacher doesn't do what we call a tzimtzum harishon, a first and complete retraction, b'bchinas siluk, which means with complete removal, then the teacher can't teach properly, because in his teaching will be heard and felt where it's coming from, and it will overwhelm the student. So the first thing is the teacher has to remove that knowledge from his conscious self, and that itself creates a form of knowledge that is measured for the students, and we call that practice of removal of his knowledge. We call it siluk. Like from the word histalkut, that we learned earlier, removal, departure. Mikol Mokraim Nikra b'Shem Shechina, says the Rebbe, it's true that the light, the energy, as it exists before Tzimtzum, is very removed. Nevertheless, it's called Shechina. He doesn't explain, and we're going to go on. And now he goes back to what the Medrash says. And here I want to go back. Remember, the Medrash says not just that Shechina was below, but Ikar Shechina. And the question is, why does the Medrash add the word Ikar? So when we talk about the revelation of the Shechina below, it's not the Shechina, as the Shechina is compared to Atzilus, Hainu Malchus, which would be Malchus, it's not the level of Shechina as it is in comparison to the infinite light, which is, we learned, he's repeating briefly what he said earlier. Hainu Akav, it's that measured light. Kiyim, what am I referring to when I say Shechina? Ikeru pnimius Shechina hoisa b'tachtonim dafka. The main and inner aspect of Shechina was specifically here below. In other words, what Leoni, when the Medrash says, God says, I returned to my place which I loved and had such pleasure. Lignuni. Basi legani. What does the Medrash say? Lignuni. To my garden, which brought me lots of pleasure. I have all kinds of tasty food and fruits, right? So the Rebbe says, this means that Hashem came to the place which his real deep self said, this is where I want to be. What we understand from this is practically that this world, which outwardly is tachtoinim, is low, is disgusting, right? Is ugly. It has all these problems. The truth is, it's the best place. And the Rebbe, you should know, guys, in 1970 or 71 at the Farbrengen, it was 20 years of Yud Shvat, the Rebbe, and this is online today, the Rebbe spoke at length how the world is a beautiful garden. It's a must hear that sicha. And the subtitles in English. So in other words, and that's what he's saying here, that the Iker of Pnimius Ashchina Hoysa B'Tachtoinim Davke. Why? Because only here below is where you get the real beauty, the real pleasure. Yes, outwardly there's a lot of problems and a lot of challenges. Hashem made it that way. But where does he want to make his home? He wants to make his home in, I don't know, Florida, Las Vegas, no, Eretz Yisrael. Even though Florida, Las Vegas have the sun in the winter, and California, but they all have their issues. You come to Eretz Yisrael, issues here, issues there, it's Eretz HaKodesh. So the Iker, but outwardly, the politics, the misfighting, and all the issues that you confront daily there, it can turn you off. It's, and everything is passionate because Jews, you know what I mean? But that's where Tachtoinim is. That's Tachtoinim. That's what we're learning here. And that's called Iker Shechina. Not just Shechina. Iker Shechina. Let's continue the paragraph. Ki ha'oir sheneslabish ba'ilamois haru bo b'seid v'adroga. The Rebbe gives us a rule here. Hillel, another rule to underline. The energy of Hashem, what we call the Or, that invests itself in the worlds, to create, to enliven, it comes in a progressive manner. It's called Seder V'Hadroga, or the common word in Kabbalah and Chasidus is Seder Hishtalshelus. Many times we just use the word Hishtalshelus. Hishtalshelus comes from the word Shalshelis, a chain. One loop follows the next loop. If you're missing a loop in the chain, it's a broken chain. You have to have all the loops, one following the other. That's called Seder V'Hadroga, in an organized way, one after the other. Well, the Maila made a Begil Yosef, so therefore, the light, as it is in an observable way, is more apparent in a higher level. You see the word mishtalshel. And the more it is drawn, and it comes and in the progressive manner, the energy, the chayis, the light, the or is reduced. But this is all true for the light of Seder Ishtalshelus. This is a rhetorical question. Although pre-sin, we know the light of Hashem was all over, it was apparent, it was revealed. But nevertheless, Hoyagam Oz Gilui ha'oir yoser l'mayla. He says, yes, it was a pair, but if you compare what was below to what was above was more. And as the rabbis say, what do they say, the rabbis? They say, Noto Yamina, Hashem stretched his right hand, metaphorically speaking. Ubara Shamayim, he created heaven. Noto Smoila, he stretched his left hand. Ubara Aretz, and he created earth. And therefore, what does Iker Shechina means? It means the primordial light that preceded everything. It is what came here on earth, and that's called Iker Shechina. So the conclusion of chapter 1, we know one thing for sure, because many other things are, more complicated. And that is that Iker Shechina, that the primary aspect of God's essence, of God's Shechina, was here below. Any questions before we continue? Hello?
No, we're on a roll.
Okay, I know it was, I went a little fast and everything, but, it's a long mimer, so we have to move and we have to go further. Okay, let's go further. The fact that the Iker Shechina was below, it's understood from the Medrash that we quoted earlier at the beginning of the discourse, the Tachtoinim Koi al Olam Hazeh Agashmi. Right? When it says Iker Shechina b'Tachtoinim, now in other words, in the first chapter, Hillel, we analyzed the what. What aspect, Yoni, of God was below. So that was a discussion in chapter 1. Now, in chapter 2, he starts discussing where it was. Not what it was, but where it was. So he says, Mevur ma medrash, it's understood from the medrash, the tachtoinim koi aleilam hazeh agashmi. That tachtoinim means right here, the physical world, Yoni, the table you're sitting at. That's where Hashem's real self was, in the Gashmias. As it's explained, through the sin of the tree of knowledge, the Medrash continues over there and says the sin of Chet Eitz Hadas caused the removal of Hashem's divine presence from earth to heaven. And through the giving of Torah on Mount Sinai, Basi, legani, Hashem says, I return to my garden, legani, to my place of delight. And the primary removal of God's presence from the world was through the sin. Which sin? It's the sin of Adam eating from the tree of knowledge. Just as in regard to the sin. We know that the source of all transgressions and sins and chatoim is the sin of Eitz Hadas. What made it possible to commit future sins? It is the sin of Chet Eitz Hadas. Vanish. In the Torah, when it records the sins of Kayin and Enosh, they were only possible and only happened because what preceded them was the Chet Eitz Hadas. So too, in the result of the sin, the Hasiluk Shenas La'idei Chet, the removal of God's energy through the sin, Hine Ikir Hasiluk. What was the primary aspect of the removal? It is the fact that God's presence removed itself because of the sin from this lower world, Dafke, from this lower world. The fact, Shalom, that God didn't remove himself from Atzilus and Bria and those levels and angels really is not 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 the most important. Because those places are so holy that, in a little while they'll get more of an infusion of godliness. But here on earth, where it's so dark outwardly, and it's so challenging, and you have a little light, and the light inspires you, if that light is removed from you, you're in darkness, and boy does it hurt. So that's why he says, Hillel, the fact that there was a siluk, there was a removal of God's energy. Where did it hurt most? It was in the physical world. Olam hazeh hatachton tafke, specifically the lower world. And he continues, Shem she'ikir, page 194. Shchina betachtoinahu, be'olam hazeh tafke, just as as we said before, in chapter 1, we proved that where was the main Shechina, and where is it? It's right here on earth. So too, so too, who besiluk, the ikar, hasiluk, who mashidestalik, me'aretz dafka. When you talk about the removal of the energy of the light of Hashem, what concerns us most is that it was removed vis-a-vis the sin, the chet hadas, from the physical world, me'aretz, from earth. This was accomplished through the sin of Eitz Hadas. It was removed from the earth and went back to heaven. And this is also the reason that in the Maimer, my father-in-law doesn't combine Eitz Hadas in the Medrash, it doesn't make that distinction. But the previous Rebbe, when he quotes the Medrash, he separates the two chatoyim Shmuel, the chet of Eitz Hadas, and the chatoyim, the sins of Kain ve'emnish. And the question that the Rebbe is alluding to here, which is the rhetorical question, why does he do that? And he explains, Lefi shebachatoyim, what happened, Yoni? When Cain and Enosh sinned, all they did is they just caused the removal of the Shekhinah, of the divine presence, from one heaven to another heaven. As we say in Yiddish, Yoni, it ain't so bad. Right? Mashain Cain, conversely, B'chet Eitz Hadas, what happened through the sin of Eitz Hadas? Shenestalke me'oretz l'rekia. Here it was an ad infinitum. It was a leap beyond normalcy that the Shekhinah went from the lowest to the highest. It's a great jump. And when you jump, you can break your bones. You can hurt yourself. Well, Hashem did a very big jump because of the Chet Eitz Hadas. When it came to the sin of Cain ve'Enosh, he jumped away. He moved away. I should rather say, he moved away. It was a gradual departure. Mirakia lirakia. From one heaven to another heaven, which both have a kind of association and relationship. But to go, it's like to stop smoking cold turkey or stop drinking cold turkey, boy, is that a shock to the system. And that's what happened when there was the Chet Eitz Hadas. It was a shock to the system, where one day we had God with us, and the next day, gone, goodbye. Says the Rebbe. And the forcefulness of this departure was not only in the departure from where it was, which is the earth. This is primarily relevant to us. I'm sorry, I learned it wrong. That in addition to a departure, where was the departure from? From the earth, from here on earth, from here in this world. And that's why he now uses the word Ikar Shechina also, because this is what's most relevant to us. The fact that the Shechina takes a walk, a stroll from one level to another level, from one heaven to another level, doesn't interest us. We are earthly, and we know one thing: are you here, God, or not? So if Hashem is relatively still here, but just walking around, it's like, okay, he needs a little fresh air. He took a walk. But when you find out he left, he's not coming back, you become upset, depressed, angry. And that's why it says, this is what's most relevant to us. So this is the primary aspect of the siluk, of the removal of godliness, vis-a-vis the chait is from on earth. So what he said until now, we conclude today the shir, is that number one, what we're identifying as the who, the what, is the essence, the ikar shechina, and the where was it, and where did it leave from? And now it's returning vis-a-vis Matan Torah, which is the idea of Basi, legani. Hashem says, I'm coming back. When I give you the Torah, I'm coming back to where I originally was. Where did he leave from that he's coming back to? He left from earth. And from earth is where it counts most, and that's why it was most painful, and now the return makes us most happy. Okay, any questions or yes?
One question.
Yes.
The example of Kayin ve'Enosh, does that imply two silukim from two different rakiyas?
I would have to see the medrash, but I don't think so. I think Kayin ve'Enosh is one rakia. Shmuel, you understand this question, right? Do you remember? Is Kayin ve'Enosh what?
Maybe it's there. Each one is different chunk than other rakia.
Okay.
We have. It's a good. Hillel, if you could find the medrash and take it out.
Okay.
Basi legani is a verse in Shir Shirim, and look it up. Maybe you'll see some language there. Okay.
Sure.
Zay gesund, everyone. Take care. Have a good